I would never want to throw this into the wash machine and infect my other cloths with this amount of dirt. Those things will wad these microfibers up. I'm talking to you, beginner detailer. What you need to know is the most important tool in your arsenal as a detailer, regardless of what kind of detailing you're doing. Maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you're a driveway detailer. Maybe you're a hobbyist. It matters not. Your go-to tool that is the most important tool that you will use is a microfiber cloth. And I'm going to refer to this as microfiber technology because the technology is both the materials they use to construct microfiber with and the way they manufacture it. Now, I'm not going to melt your brain with all the specifics of that. Really, all you need to know is that this is your cloth of choice. It is superior to any other material in a cloth that you could pick for 3 reasons. It's safer, it's more absorbent, and it doesn't leave lint. So based on what you're trying to accomplish, what detailing task you're doing, this is always going to be the superior choice. That's where things remain simple. Once you go past that, because there's literally about 100,000 types of varieties of microfiber cloths, as well as like 10,000 different types of applications of microfiber, from just basic cloths to polishing pads, to application pads of different types, scrubbing pads, washing pads. That's both the good news and the bad news. The bad news is it will melt your brain. The good news is, like, let's pretend you're a mechanic, a car mechanic, and you gotta fix engines or build engines. Why do mechanics have 100,000 different types of tools? Because they know that picking the right tool for the job will save them so much time and aggravation, and actually can produce better results by not damaging the component by using the wrong tool. Well, the same holds true with microfibers, but you don't have to overthink it as a beginner, because I'm going to show you what I do to keep things simpler, to keep yourself organized, as well as to help you in your presentation, because as I teach in my videos, you're always on display. Now, if you're a driveway detailer, you probably don't care if you're on display. But if you're a business owner, yes, you're going to care that you're on display. You're going to care about your customer, what are they observing as you're working, and you're going to care about the neighbors, because some of those neighbors might end up being your customers if they see you working in a professional way versus an unprofessional way where they're going to say, oh, hell no, I'm not using that guy. So it depends upon the context of your world. But I'm going to show you what I do in my world as a professional detailer. Now, I will tell you a secret. It's my secret, and that is this. If you wanted to keep things ultra simplistic, you literally could buy one specific type of microfiber cloth and do every task that you would be required to do. Literally one. And that is this one. Sorry, all you microfiber manufacturers out there, you guys all make some really great products. Specifically Autofiber. If I'm going to default to a brand, I'm going to default to Autofiber because they are so innovative and they literally have engineered so many useful tools into microfibers. But once again, we're trying to keep it simple, especially if you're just starting out. I can assure you I'm not a paid spokesperson for Kirkland. I've been using these cloths ever since I discovered them like 100,000 years ago, which is hyperbole. The point is, this represents what I consider the winning balance. If you accept, and you should, that microfiber cloth is going to be your default cloth. Doesn't matter what task you're doing, you're always going to use some type of microfiber cloth. Well, let me introduce you to my 95-5 rule, which is this. For 95% of any job, interior and exterior matters not, I'm going to use a Kirkland, aka Costco brand microfiber cloth for that job. 95% with one cloth. And like I suggested before, I literally could make it 100% of every task. It's just that I'm going to keep things simple, but I still want to finesse my arsenal of cloths a little more, fine-tuning it with 2 additional types of cloths that I will get to in a moment. Now, this cloth is what I consider the winning balance as far as how thick it is. It's also what I consider the winning size, 16 by 16. When I use these cloths, as a rule, I will fold them twice, which if you do the math, will give you 8 different working areas. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have the other side, which is 4 again, which equals 8. I don't always use 8. It's just that officially you have 8. And speaking of economical, they're almost disposable because in my world, they're so cheap compared to what you can spend on some seriously high quality microfiber. If that becomes your world moving forward, that they're so cheap, I almost really consider them disposable. But they're really not, because you can wash them and reuse them over and over again. This is how I organize. Now, organization has to do with efficiency. I'm a big fan of efficiency because being more efficient leads to being more profitable. This is how I organize my cloths. I organize them into 5 groups. We have virgin, never been used once or maybe twice, but it remains mostly clean. So you might be able to tell based on how this is showing up on the video that there's a change in colors. Yes, this is extreme. You'll obviously be able to observe that. But really what I do is I grade them. And then because it's literally organized this way in my garage as well as my detailing van, I know based on the tasks that I'm doing which cloth through a visual indicator that I'm going to grab. So for example, let's say I'm removing wax. I need to be safe at it and I need to be effective at it. I'm going to pick one of these cleaner cloths to do it. So let's say I'm working on a $350,000 Ferrari that I just did paint correction on. I'm going to go to one of these virgin cloths to remove the polish and to wax it. But let's say it's a $25,000 black Camry that, yeah, I'm concerned with it, but I don't necessarily have to go with a virgin cloth. I could go with one of these cloths to work on the paint work. But let's say I'm detailing the inside of that $20,000 Camry, and now I'm cleaning the leather in it. It's like, I don't want to solely up one of these, so I'm going to default to one of these because it's dirty, but it still remains clean. It's just not as clean and unsoiled as these. So that's where you just pick the right cloth for the right task. Let's say I'm going to clean some wheels, but I clean it with a wheel cleaner so it's mostly clean. But if you've ever cleaned wheels yourself, you know that there's always some type of residue on the wheels that will dirty up, like this cloth will dirty up your cloth. Now, despite this being washed, it remains stained. So the stains aren't always going to come out. So if you're picking up what I'm trying to put down, I would never reach for this cloth to remove wax on any kind of car, regardless of what it costs, because this is where presentation comes in. Would I want my customer to see me wiping wax off his car, regardless of the cost of that car, with this cloth? No, I would not. It's not going to look very professional. And even though I know it's clean, it's just stained and it's still safe. Not as safe as that, but safe enough. Johnny customer's not going to know that because visually they're just going to look and be like, what is that guy doing? It looks like he's using a dirty cloth to wipe the wax off of my car. Therefore, you're going to pick the appropriate cloth for the job. So you just work through it. So every time you wash your load, you're going to sort through the laundry and you're going to decide, okay, this looks that clean. And trust me, it sounds like a lot of work. This is part of being organized. You will appreciate it as you're out there in the field working because you don't have just big pile of unfolded laundry that now you're filtering through trying to find that cleaner cloth versus the dirtier cloth. It's already done for you and you're just like, oh yes, got to shampoo a floor mat, got to shampoo a leather seat, got to take some wax off a black car, bam. Got to take some wax off a white car, bam. I've got to clean some really grungy garbage off the sidewall of some tires because the dressing It's got like 5 months of built up dressing that's now this big greasy mess, and my degreaser's not even cutting through it. And I gotta mop it up with this first and even use some acetone on it to cut it off. So I'm gonna use this cloth, which is my disposable cloth. So as these transition from virgin down to heavily soiled, there comes a point where it's disposable. I would never want to throw this into the wash machine and infect my other cloths with this amount of dirt. So now I just reserve these. I don't fold them. I do keep these just in a big wad, a big pile within my van or within my garage in a container. And then I just reach for these as a disposable cloth until it becomes unusable. Then it gets chucked in the garbage can. So that's how I organize it. And this has to do with organization, efficiency, profitability, as well as presentation. And I've got many comments from my customers commenting on, wow, you're so organized. So that's where presentation comes in, which has to do with looking professional. Let's talk about the 3 varieties that I use personally and professionally, because once again, I'm going to reduce it down to a more simpler way of operating. And it's these. We've already discussed this. You know all the winning attributes of this. This is part of the 95% of every job. Then we have the extra plush type of microfiber cloth. Now this is a perfect example. It's from Autofiber. It's super plush. It's very thick, very absorbent. They're all absorbent, but this is more absorbent because it's thicker. It's also finished or has a finished edge. Now I know there's endless debate as they'll talk about the edgeless microfiber cloth, how it's safer. Personally, I prefer a ribbing, an edge to it, because it creates a more sturdy user experience, meaning it doesn't roll up on you or wad up on you quite as easily as an edgeless microfiber cloth does. So this one has to do with thickness. I would only use this to remove wax, which even that, I still prefer this because I don't necessarily want the extra thick or extra long fibers when removing wax. I actually reserve these mostly for anytime I'm touching the paint where there's any type of dust or debris on it, as in like waterless washing techniques, waterless washing products, quick detailers, where I'm touching it up and I know that there's some degree of dust or dirt on the paint. That's where I think the extra plush one is a little safer. This one is what's called a waffle weave microfiber cloth, and once again, it's got a finished border to it, which I prefer. Now, I do prefer waffle weave for windows specifically. A couple of reasons. One, because of the texture, and you can see it when it's up close as to why they call it a waffle weave, because it has the texture of, wait for it, a waffle. That adds some extra stability to it, some extra rigidity. You can call it what you want. The point is windows, you're often really having to lean into them pretty heavily to cut through the grime. And then there's just some windows, particularly brand new cars, like let's say even a non-brand new car, which would be an older car, but let's say it just had the front windshield replaced and now it's a brand new front windshield. I find those windshields particularly problematic because it seems like no cloth wants to glide over them. So these will also want to roll up and wad up on you. So under the worst applications, this extra ribbing and the waffle weave texture aids in it not rolling up on you. Also, I know visually that these are reserved for window cleaning only. I never commingle these as far as using them for any other task of detailing other than windows. This is how Darren keeps it simpler. At the beginning, I listed off the 3 winning attributes of microfiber cloths: safer, more absorbent, lint-free. Now, everything comes with trade-offs in life. There is no perfect answer, there's only trade-offs. But you can't weigh in on the trade-offs unless you know what the trade-offs are. So when it comes to microfiber cloths, one of the trade-offs is they require extra care when washing and drying them. So this is what you need to know. Heat is its enemy. Yes, you can wash them in warm water. I don't recommend hot water, but warm water. And when you're washing them, I recommend you get a dedicated microfiber detergent that is free from dyes, fragrances, and softeners. Doesn't mean you have to use it, because what you can do, for example, I get this at Costco, all free and clear, because it's free of colors, it's free of any additional fragrances, it doesn't have any fabric softeners to it, because those things will wad these microfibers up. You do not want that. I promise you, if you wash it with a traditional fabric cleaner that has those additives to it, eventually you will start realizing that your results as a detailer diminish, because you've got those additives are now part of they've infected your microfiber cloths. You don't want that. So that's an alternative. So that's what you do to wash them. And in case you're not connecting the dots, when you dry them, you're not throwing in any dryer sheets. The dryer sheets that make them smell good, or dryer sheets that prevent static cling, don't do that. So drying is really the tricky part, because if you dry it on too low of heat, as in no heat at all or almost no heat at all, these will take forever to dry. But if you dry them on high heat, what happens is the microfibers themselves become dried out and brittle, because the heat has dried them out and made them brittle. And when you go to use them, it will literally shed, wait for it, the microfibers onto the material that you're trying to clean. I don't care what you're cleaning. It's most observable when you're cleaning windows or shiny objects like paint, because you will literally see this effect. You won't know what's going on at first. You will not have probably realized that you just decimated your cloth, even though it looks mostly intact. You don't know that all those, or that a lot of those microfibers have become brittle, and now they're gonna shed as you use your cloth. And you will see this effect, like you could go into your house with one of those cloths and clean a mirror, and you will see literally hundreds of little fibers stuck to the mirror, and you're like, what is going on? And the more you try to rub it off and clean them off, the more you build up static electricity, and they just stick to life even further. And it just becomes an exercise in aggravation. So trust me, you don't want to do that. What I had to figure out with my washer and dryer, because I bought a new one and they're so complex now that there's like 100,000 settings on them, that it's just so overkill. So I had to figure out that permapress is the winning balance when it comes to washing them and drying them. It's enough heat without being too much heat. So just know, I don't want you to have to learn the hard way, because if you do learn the hard way, not only are you going to learn it the hard way, but you're going to realize that in most cases, you've just rendered your microfiber cloth ineffective, because it becomes such a problem with those fibers shedding all over everything. And you're going to realize, oh my God, now my collection of microfiber cloths have just become a one-use only moment. I'm just going to have to replace them. That gets costly pretty quickly. Also, never, ever wash all your microfiber cloths with any other type of material. Not your laundry, not your bedding, not the area rug, not anything. I don't care what it is. Keep these together. Wash them only together if you're going to do them together, unless you've decided to wash just your window cloth separately, but only wash microfibers together and alone, because that's part of those microfibers, is that any foreign object, lint from other types of materials, it could be lint from the ground, dirt, or particles, anything that's not water soluble will cling to these. And you will be annoyed and frustrated when you pull them out of the dryer and you're like, what the what? What is stuck all over to my microfiber cloth? Well, you didn't listen to Darren when he told you to wash them independent of any other thing in your house that you wash in a washing machine. Whether you're washing it or drying it, And also you can go one step further and clean out the lint trap of your dryer before you dry these, so that somehow some of that lint from your other laundry is not able to infect your microfiber cloths. I know it might seem overkill, but that's only because you haven't experienced the frustration yourself firsthand. I'm trying to prevent that for you. And I think that covers it. And if you've learned something today, give the video a thumbs up. With that said, I will see you in the next video.